In August '08, I worked in New Orleans with artists and students and people in the community. As part of the process, I asked people to bring in bits of ceramic kitsch or other things from home to make the work and somehow bring histories of objects and the life of objects from the community into the space and into the forms that we would shape together. In this case, some of the artists brought me to their homes and workplaces. They offered so many objects that were underwater during Hurricane Katrina. Just take what you want, they told me, and I wasn't completely comfortable with that, so I asked them to help me choose. What do you want to bring into the space? This is a chandelier that was underwater for several weeks under the house of Hollis Hannon. She's a sculptor in New Orleans, and her house went through the storm to such a level that most of this very high piece of architecture on the right was underwater, and there are cat claw marks scored deeply into it. For me, these marks of survival made by the cat over the weeks that the neighborhood was underwater, she was leaping up there to keep out of the flood. These marks convey urgency. They reflect something that I sense in the students right now. Marks of urgency infiltrate not just my interactions in the gallery, the classroom, but together with students and colleagues, I'm grappling with how do we move this practice, ceramics and otherwise, to be relevant and part of the way we maneuver survival in the 21st century. The area was and continues to be really challenged by infrastructure issues. A week before I got there, this was in the paper, an oil spill in New Orleans. 3 weeks after the oil spill, I could still see the oil floating there on the surface of the river. I could feel that the way we organize those things, or don't really, weighed heavily on the people I was installing with. And so this is Hollis's truck, and we loaded up really interesting things from underneath her house. She collects beautiful and unusual things. I became really curious about being under the house or under the boardwalk. My collaborators Fran Kerner and Andy Shaw took me to the bayou where there were alligators, right under the boardwalk. It got me wondering what happens underneath where we walk. It's becoming a big question for me. In Bangkok, where I was born, similar wooden boardwalks and small bridges let you pass over the thick waters of the Klongs, the urban canals. What's happening underneath all of that?
Underneath my feet is concrete, like a heavy coat of English smothering the land. When weeds crack through pavement, they make me think of indigenous languages, trying to survive, to return balance to the earth, so that she might breathe. When pavement blocks the flow of water to the earth below, water still slowly seeps through in cracks with erosion. Water is on its own timeline, a much vaster scale of time than that of small humans. Underneath the concrete is earthy life, stony life, fluid life. Reading Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, I learned that the ground, which I think is so solid, is actually home to a lot of water. She writes, "Groundwater is always on the move, sometimes at a pace so slow it travels no more than 50 feet a year, sometimes rapidly by comparison, so that it moves nearly 1/10 of a mile in a day. But mostly, it contributes to streams, and so to rivers. Except for what enters streams directly as rain or surface runoff, all the running water of the earth's surface was at one time groundwater. And so, in a very real and frightening sense, pollution of the groundwater is pollution of water everywhere."